Sometimes you'll get it wrong, sometimes you'll get it right. You'll never get it done though if you give up the fight. You know your choice of view is if you take this
Ahoy!
The only thing I ask.
And welcome to Thingies. In this video I'm going to show you how to make the perfect M8 standard external thread in FreeCAD. After spending a good long time online trawling through confusing thread charts that all seem to have a different standard size for the same thing, before realising that it's all irrelevant anyway when it comes to printing plastic, because it definitely needs to have a larger tolerance. So after a good amount of trial and error attempts, I seem to have threaded in the perfect formula. You see what I did there? Anyway, well, it works extremely well every time on my printer and 15-year-old operating system. And it only takes 15 or 20 minutes to do once, and then you can save it on file and use it as many times as you like in the future. You might well ask, why bother? Why bother when it's all fairly abundantly available and cheaply? Well, for a start, unless you live right next door to a hardware store, it's quicker. It can be a lot less fiddly when assembling your print if it's already part of it in the perfect place. It's non-magnetic, so if you're making something for a metal detector, say, or anything else that's sensitive to ferrous metals. It's non-conductive if you're making electrical components. It won't rust if you're making something for your fish aquarium. It weighs a lot less. You'll only go out of stock if you run out of PLA. And you make it the exact size you need. Of course, it's not as strong or durable, and it's even questionable whether it's any cheaper. Anyway, let's stop screwing around explaining things and get to the nuts and bolts of the issue and get modelling it in FreeCAD. Nuts and bolts. Now, here we are to make an M8 external thread. This should take about 15-20 minutes or thereabouts, hopefully. Create a new part, new project, and go to Part Workshop and choose the cylinder. Click the cylinder in the itinerary, what do you call it, over here, inventory, whatever, and change it to 3mm by 50. Radius of 3mm and a height of 50. And that'll give us something big enough to work on. Nothing in tasks. Don't know why that's open. Anyway, from there, we go to the Part Design Workshop, making sure that we've got the cylinder active. We give it a body. It likes to have a body. And from that body, we can click the space bar and it'll disappear for now, because now we want to create a sketch. Go up to there where the sketch is. It's in a different place every time you look, I'm sure, but that's the icon you're looking for right there. So we click on a sketch on the YZ plane. Okay. I'm going to try and space out my wording here, because I know that if you're new to this, as I was at one point obviously, it's difficult to press the space bar quick enough before they go on to something a lot quicker. Now I'm zooming in here for a good reason. because it's quite a small profile, the profile of the thread, but we want to start off with this tool up here, which is create a polyline, which is basically line after line, straight line after straight line. We want to be about I've gone too far out, look. Nearly 3 millimeters out there. And a straight line of 1.2, about there. Try and keep your vertical lines and your horizontal lines straight. Let's move it across with the right click of the mouse so we can see what we're doing. In fact, zoom out a bit. We're going to make a chopped off triangle. There's a chopped off bit. Try and keep it vertically straight and back to the beginning again. And double click right, double right click gets rid of that tool. And we've made a kind of a rough chopped off triangle. These two angles here, if we equal them, not one that looks similar, constrain the parallels, we want to constrain the equal, make them equal, and then click on them again, and this is in a different place every time I look. The angle, constrain the angle to 60. Just move that over there so we can see what we're doing. Get a better view of it. And the large vertical, the vertical line should be 1.25, so we'll go to vertical constraint. It's 1.26, that wasn't far out, was it? 1.25. And the distance between the extreme to the data point wants to be a horizontal constraint of 3.8 millimeters. So we'll just stick that up here out the way so we can see what we're doing. This closest, the bottom half of the profile that we're sketching to the data point wants to be a horizontal constraint of 2.9, as we said. So just move that out of the way. It's gone green because that means it's fully constrained. That is where it's sat now. So we can close that down and just check everything before we go. Don't want to go too fast, like I say. I know what that's like. And go back to the body and click your space bar and bring it back. And you will notice that the profile that we've just done is hiding around the back there. But that's exactly where we wanted it, just tucked in nicely inside. There's reasons for that. And from here, where are we? We're in part design. We want to go back to the part workshop now. Should we go back to the part workshop? Yeah, let's go back to the part workshop. And at the top here, there are a few extra options. Click the one that says part. Down to create primitives. From that drop down. And it has another drop down that we want to create a helix. Okay? Now this is pointless, but we're going to do it anyway because we need to. So the pitch is 1.25 as a standard M8 thread. The height of this first helix wants to be 1.25, not 50. You won't get away with it. I've tried. And the radius we want to be in the middle of that, somewhere, doesn't really matter, but somewhere in the middle of that profile that we've sketched out. So we're going to 3.7. And at the bottom here, on the z-axis, on a position, we want to come up halfway through that profile, which is 1.25, so the halfway is 0.62 in there.
Now create that, and you'll notice that it's not going through the right part. And close that down a minute. The beginning of the helix is obviously on the wrong plane, so we go onto the helix, and under placement the angle wants to be 90 degrees round, and that brings them both together. Hokey pokey. Right, now we go to, just to make sure that that's on the right there. Now, as I said earlier, it was pointless putting those inputs into the helix. If you notice down here in the sizes, it's changed it to 1.3. If you can tell me why that is, please comment below. I haven't got a clue, but it's changed it. So we're going to change it back 1.25. We will not have it 1.25. 3.7. That's great. Why it changes it, I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't like a quarter.
You know your choice of viewers if you dig this kind of vibe. The only thing I ask of you is like, comment, subscribe.
Where are we? Going into part design, we want to select the helix and go to this funny icon up here. I'm not quite sure, not the green one. We want to create a shape binder with the blue one. It's got the helix in there, so that's it. Don't have to do anything from there on. Now we click on the sketch and we want an additive pipe. It's the yellow one, not the blue one, that takes it away. The yellow one adds to it. And the object is that helix that we've just made. And you'll notice that it's a kind of a thread, but it ain't right. And it took me a long while to find that if you just click that one there that says frene, the orientation mode, frenet, it straightens it all out. And so we OK that. And we have our first thread. Now, the additive pipe from here, we can duplicate this. Now, this is an easier way, trust me, than making the thread 50 millimeters high earlier, because it doesn't work too well. But let's go to the direction based on Z-axis. That puts it up instead of across. Change this one, it's very particular, this. And it's 50 millimeters of the thread divided by 1.25 of the pitch is 40, but being as we've already made one thread, and I think the logic goes as FreeCAD assumes that if you want something duplicating, then it is at least another count of one. So disregarding them two, yeah, disregarding the two, 50 minus 1.25 times 2 is 47.5. Yeah, it took me a while. I don't, if you know, then comment below, but if not, it took me a while as well. 47.5. And we want an occurrence of 39. I think that's just because we're disregarding the first one. We'll have a quick check on here to see if that works. These little round things recalculate what it's done before you've okayed it, so you can change things while you're here. This will take a while if you've got an old computer or a slow computer like I have, because there's a lot of geometry in each one of those helixes, and now it's times it by 39, which is a lot times 39. So it's got a lot to work through to get them all in line and working correctly. I think that's the excuse it gives anyway. but just check whether these lines, the joining lines, go in as far as you can, just to check whether they are actually together, and they are. It's quite a long way in I've gone there. Don't worry about the flatty bit at the top. It's an M8 thread. If you're going to make a bigger thread, then yeah, sure, you need to file that down a bit for it to start. But on an M8 thread, there's hardly anything. There's not even a millimetre showing. So we'll OK that. And now click Control and S and save under M8 external thread. There are a few tweaks you will need to do to adjust the slicing program. I'll put a video up on that later on to accommodate the very fine parameters of the thread. I think the M8 thread is about as small as most printers, home printers, will go to without the need to tap the thread afterwards, making it pointless, as you may as well have just printed an M8 solid cylinder and tapped your way through that. Now, you can use this file to place an M8 thread that works onto any part you require as many times as you like. So if we go back to the part workshop, if you like, and just choose, say that cube is your part, and let's transform it into, let's put it into the middle of the thread. I don't know what part this is, but let's just say we're making sort of a threaded thing. Bring it up a bit so it can start on the thread. Okay, and use that thread. You can't use it for an internal thread. This is not an internal thread dimension. I'll do a video on that later on. But let's say you want a thread on that cube, if the cube happens to be part of something. Say that's your part, then you can stick them both together. Let's have them stuck together then, and stick them together like that. Oh, I haven't created a body on that cube. And now we can move them both apart. The fusion, it's now called the fusion, that one piece. So we can move them all apart together. We fused them together. So yeah, now you can use that M8 thread that works onto any part you require as many times as you like. Let's have another piece. We don't want it, let's say if we don't want it as long as that. We only want a little bit of thread poking through. And we'll model that cube, I don't know, 40 high. We only want a little bit poking through, however much you want to use. We only want that bit poking through, okay? And so now we can go from there to that one, and yeah, we haven't got a body on that one either. And just chop it off. By doing that, you'll notice that the thread actually starts correctly, and so it'll be easier to start a thread on that. But you can do that as many times as you like, as I say, and then you can duplicate that cut. Oh no, because we've got it as part of a, forget what I've just said, because it's fused as well, so we don't want to duplicate the first cube that we put down. Anyway, where were we? Oh, too far. That's where we were. Control and S. I've saved mine. I've done quite a few of them now. I've been doing some research for you to get this perfect, and it does print perfectly. If you're going to export it, that means you need a 50mm threaded bar, and unless you need a 50mm threaded bar printed, I wouldn't bother exporting it, because to get it back from export an STL file to solid, my computer doesn't do it because there's too much geometry in it to handle. So just keep it in your FreeCAD file, Control and S, keep it in your FreeCAD file as an M8 threaded bar, and you should be good to go. So anyway, that should be it. Pat yourself on the back, say thank you with a like button, subscribe if you want to join me on the three-dimensional journey. Leave a little comment down below if you think I've done anything wrong. If it doesn't work on your operating system or on your machine, let me know, because if it's not working, I can take the video down and stop people from wasting their time. Anyway, leave a comment, because I'd love to hear from you anyway. I won't see you next time. You'll be seeing me. Toodle pip.
Sometimes you'll get it wrong, sometimes you'll get it right. You'll never get it done, though, if you give up the fight. You know your choice of view is if you take this kind of vibe. The only thing I ask of you is like, comment, subscribe. Sometimes you won't have time, sometimes you can't be asked. It's just procrastination and you think it'll be alright. Shake it down. You know your choice of view is if you dig this kind of vibe. The only thing I ask of you is like, comment, subscribe. I don't care if you've got skills, I don't care if you are bright. If you ain't got just a little luck, then you're gonna lose your appetite. You know your choice of view is if you dig this kind of vibe. The only thing I ask of you is like, comment, subscribe.